Moonpig.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Moonpig Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Ariella, and I'm very excited to be welcoming a brand new co host to the podcast team, Rob. Rob, welcome to the podcast. Do you mind giving our listeners a quick intro about who you are?
Hello, thank you very much. I'm Rob. I'm one of the engineering managers here at Moonpig. I work on the loyalty team, so we tackle the reminders system, reminding people when an event like a birthday is coming up, and also the Moonpig Plus subscription service is something that we work on. I've been at Moonpig for just under a year and a half now.
Awesome. Welcome on board, Rob. So for today's episode, we're joined by Julian Ross, who, along with myself, recently took part in an internal hackathon, and we focused on the element of accessibility. And so before we go into the episode, Julia and Ross, thanks for coming on to talk to us. We both want to maybe introduce yourself to the listeners. Who would like to go first?
I'll chuck my hat in the ring. Yeah, I'm Ross. I come from a background in healthcare, and then I retrained as an experimental psychologist and decided that it wasn't for me. Towards the end of my training, I'd caught the coding bug, and after looking for apprenticeships, I ended up at Moonpig, where I've been working on the checkout team for all things checkout and payments related for coming up for 2.5 years now. And yeah, over to you, Julia.
Yeah, thank you, Ross, and thank you for having us. So I'm Julia. I'm a front-end developer from Spain, and I've been at Moonpig for almost 3 years. My first 2 years were in the design systems team, aka Launchpad, and now I'm working in the editor team who works on the personalization tool on the Moonpig and Grids website.
Amazing. Thanks again both for joining us. So before we talk about the hackathon, let's first talk about accessibility. So Julia, do you mind giving us a small definition of what accessibility is, please?
Yeah, so when we talk about accessibility, we're talking about something that can be used by anyone and that where anyone can do what they need to do in a similar amount of time and effort, no matter their level of ability or disability. And when we're talking about web accessibility means websites, tools, and technologies should be designed and developed so that anyone, and that includes people with disabilities, can use them.
So in terms of Moonpig, what processes do we have in place to continue our efforts to build accessible features? Do we have any sort of groups where people can learn about it? Could you maybe tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a working group called the Accessibility and Inclusion Working Group at Moonpig, and it's a really great group of people. And we organize workshops, for example, teaching people how to develop a website for screen readers and keyboard navigation. We also provide support to other teams if they have questions or concerns. And in the past, we've also conducted user interviews with people with disabilities or people who use accessibility tools. And I thought those were really eye-opening to see. So I really recommend everyone to see just these user interviews.
And with the hackathon itself, Moonpig do hackathons every few months with a particular given theme. Whose idea was it to work on this particular thing, and why was this something you wanted to work on?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a longer story. So when I was in the design systems team, aka Launchpad, my colleague Katie and I, we conducted some accessibility audits in the components of our design system as the user flows in the website. And we gathered a list of improvements and fixes that we could make on the website to make it more accessible. And so in our accessibility and inclusion working group meeting, we were discussing how we could prompt teams to take ownership of these tasks in their own domain. And so I realized, well, the hackathon is coming up. Wouldn't it be great if someone or a hackathon team would take this list and just check some of these tasks off, and they could get the momentum going with these accessibility fixes. And then I thought, well, why don't I do it? So I decided to recruit some people for my team. And I knew of people in new teams who were unfamiliar with the new domain, and maybe before they were in a more backend focused team, and now they moved to a more front-end focused team. So they wanted to improve their front-end skills. So I thought joining this team and completing these tasks would be a great opportunity for them to get to know their new domain, as well as explore other sides of the website. And so the people who joined this hackathon team, they hadn't had the chance to work in the front end that much in the past. So this would be a good opportunity for them to practice their front end skills and to learn more about accessibility and accessibility best practices and tools.
Ross, how about you? Why did you want to join this particular project?
I very much fell into the category of people that Julia was just describing. In the sort of goal to become a full stack developer, I really did need to have some radical focus on just the front end, because React and TypeScript and CSS were all things that I was struggling with quite a bit, particularly like how the nesting in React works and adding the styling. And I felt that in tackling accessibility issues, I would have to become quite acquainted with the structure of React to make sure it's in the right place, like tabbing orders and things like that. So to me, it seemed like the perfect way to have a deep dive into React and to get better used to the framework. But also, I knew everybody on the team, and we worked well together as part of the early careers group and other clubs that are available in the organisation. And also, because of that background in care, I've got quite a lot of experience in actually seeing people use tech and the accessibility features that they've got on them. And yeah, I always found it very endearing to see them be able to actually be included. And yeah, it's really nice. I've actually got a friend with motor neurons disease, and it's a little thought every time I get a text from him. I know that it's things like that that make that possible, and it makes such a big difference into his life, because he was so outgoing before he got his illness, and yeah, he loved to socialise, and he's able to use social media and everything.
Gabriella, you were also part of this team as well. Why did you join?
Yes, I was. I'm going to swap hats now and I'm going to be a guest for a second. So, when Julie reached out to me, I was in one of the enablement teams at the time, in a very back end team similar to Ross. I had no experience kind of working on the website. I had some TypeScript experience, but I didn't really know any React. And I just wanted to see if I would like it, because I was in the process of seeing if I could move to a product team at Moonpig. So I was kind of seeing this as an opportunity that I could learn more about front end and full stack, and to see if it was something that I wanted to do. So when Julie reached out, I was very happy to get involved. Yeah, just to get an insight. And like Ross said, it's nice to work with people that you don't get to work with on a day-to-day basis. It's nice to kind of reach out and network with other people in engineering that you don't get to see day to day. And kind of like we've mentioned, and like I've said, I didn't have much front end experience. And with that, obviously, work in accessibility. And obviously, I know it's such an important thing that should be incorporated into any front end work. So I wanted to make sure before joining a front end team that I had that experience. So yeah, that was why I joined.
What was the result of the hackathon? What features did you release?
We released a total of 8 accessibility features to the website in just under 8 hours. These were things like adding ARIA labels to elements to assist screen readers, and adding focus to elements so that they're highlighted, and also to assist screen readers, as well as fixing the tabbing order of elements, so that they're, as you're tabbing through, they're logically from one to the next and not skipping certain bits.
So Ross, I think there's about 6 of us engineers in the hackathon team. Do you mind sharing how we worked as a team to complete the tickets?
Yeah, we divided ourselves up into pairs, and every few hours we were also rotating those pairs as well, so that we got to pair with other people. And yeah, this was good because even though we all knew each other, we don't often get to pair regularly, and we got to gain different experiences and swap lots of tips and tricks, and yeah, just really help each other learn new things that we might not have gotten elsewhere.
Yeah, I can definitely echo that. I really liked that we made sure that we rotated the pairs. Yeah, I think I got to work with everyone. I think everyone got to work with everyone, which was really nice. And what would you say were some interesting takeaways you took from doing the hackathon? What maybe some interesting learnings that maybe surprised you?
So I mean, input and accessibility is one thing I've not done, so testing it was it's definitely something I hadn't done. But yeah, the learning about the new technologies to do that was pretty interesting. So we started off with your run-of-the-mill screen reader, which obviously is going to read everything on the screen consistently. So we spent a couple of hours trying to find one that you could turn on and off. And in the end, we actually found one that you can turn off completely and have it run as a transcript, which was brilliant. It was yeah, so useful to just see the labels popping up on the screen. Um, and yeah, learning how to manually test that. So we're updating labels, changing tabbing orders, and then going back to running the app locally, and just giving it a go as the user themselves would. And at the same time, because it wasn't the checkout, I was gaining loads more experience in working in other spaces and how some of the codes might be different. So yeah, about testing technologies and learning about other domains really.
Yeah, I think the screen reader was a big learning curve for me as well, like especially because it talks at you and you like you said it was difficult to stop. So it was quite interesting to try to get to grips on how it worked, especially because you don't realize there's so much on a page that you're tabbing through. So I would say the same thing, to be honest. I think it's really interesting, really eye-opening. So just to move on to kind of, we've completed the hackathon and then there was the presentation and awards. I think at the presentation there was different teams talking through their ideas, but do you mind telling us kind of what went on at the presentations and what happened with the awards?
Yeah, in my mind, this was the nerve-wracking bit. So we started off by presenting or showcasing all of the changes that we'd released, and as well as covering and reminding people why this is an important part of the business. And apparently, we had such an impact that they created a whole new reward just for us from the senior leadership team, because they were so inspired by our efforts. So it was really nice to see that we had that impact on people, and obviously we made people way more aware of accessibility and using the different technologies that we use to implement it. And because we did so many in such a short space of time, we I think we made it look quite easy and achievable.
Do you have any tips for listeners who want to learn more about accessibility?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Rob. Thank you so much. So if you're a Moonpig, I would suggest to join the Accessibility and Inclusivity public channel. We try to share resources and events that might be interesting for people. Or even better, if you want to learn even more about accessibility and help make Moonpig a more accessible website for everyone, then you could join the working group. We meet on Wednesdays, every 2 Wednesdays. And yeah, it's a really good group of people and we have a lot of fun. So you should join. Um, if you want to just maybe learn some basics, what a website should have for it to be accessible, then I would suggest there's an introductory course that is free, so it's great, at web.dev. So the whole link is web.dev/learn/accessibility. It's a free course, as I said, and it's a really good introduction on how you can make a website much more accessible for everyone. At Moonpig, we also have some documentation on Launchpad about making your components more accessible and how to test for accessibility in terms of visual accessibility and making the websites screen reader accessible and keyboard accessible. Also, I think a really good eye-opening exercise is for you to use these accessibility tools yourself. So you can pick any website, Moonpig or otherwise, and try to navigate it just using the keyboard, not using your mouse at all. I think that's really eye-opening. And if you're feeling brave, you could also try to use a screen reader. There's some guidance online on how to use it, and we also have guidance on how to use a screen reader and keyboard navigation on our Launchpad documentation. And if you're using a screen reader, a really good exercise as well is just turning your screen off and try to navigate it with the screen reader. It will be very difficult, but very illuminating exercise. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Those are some great tips. And you can also listen to our podcast episode 17, where we go into a deeper dive on accessibility. That's all for today. Thank you very much to Julia, Ross, and Ariella. We'll see you next time on the Moonpig Tech Podcast.
Moonpig.